Welcome to New Light Living Podcast. I'm Ulrika Sullivan. I'm an intuitive spiritual life coach. Today, we're going to talk about people pleasing. And you may have heard podcasts on this topic before, but this episode is going to take you in a different direction. Do you know somebody that is people pleasing all the time? You may wonder, how can we not people please? Because we interact with other people on a daily basis. And you're right. We are interacting with other people. We are polite and we are treating others with kindness and we're courteous and all of that. So there's always going to be an element of give and take in any interaction. That's right. However, it's when we people please that's making the interaction an imbalanced interaction, an imbalanced energy. And just to exemplify this and highlight this imbalance, I love the quote by Abiola Abrams that states, people pleasing doesn't allow you to receive. And isn't that true? That quote, that statement really highlights that imbalance that happens when we people please. And we all people please to some extent. And that's what we're going to dive into in this episode today. For example, for the longest time in my own life, I people pleased. And that took the expression of me, for example, considering always other people's opinion first before I put out my own. And that is a way of an imbalance to always consider what other people's opinions are first. And it's almost like it's a protection mechanism. But what happens when we are always considering other people's opinions and direction, if you will, we are not going to live and lead with our true self first. And that means that our true self is not expressed without condition. Does that make sense? Another day-to-day example for me was I always, like for example, cooking a meal for my family, I always ate last because I was serving everyone else first. And this people-pleasing behavior of always making sure that others are happy first, and then it's me. So putting ourselves at the very bottom of the totem pole in our own life is a form of people-pleasing because we put everyone else first. So to address this imbalance energy when it comes to people pleasing in our lives, it's important to consider how can we shift that energy so that it becomes balanced, a balanced give and take in our lives. Because often when we people please, like in my example, I didn't know who I was because I always took in energy from others to fill my day, so to say. And it included an energy of giving, and giving. And that is clearly an imbalance. So making sure that everyone else is happy first is a very common pattern. How are you people pleasing in your life? This is an opportunity for you to consider how that plays out in your life for you. And it's very easy to see when other people are people pleasing, but when we do it ourselves, it's maybe harder to identify. So why does it matter to stop people pleasing and start receiving? And it simply, I would say that people pleasing gives us the energy about us that we are giving our energy away. And what I mean with that is people can feel when we want validation from somebody else. And it often comes through people pleasing, because there is this, again, there is a condition. If I people please you, I am expecting a validation back. And sometimes that doesn't happen, and that just makes us give even more. So this people-pleasing behavior needs to be balanced, and people interaction instead of people-pleasing is the way to look at this in a different way, to balance that give and take. Why is this matter to stop people pleasing is also that you're not leading with your own true self in your life if you're people pleasing. And I mentioned that earlier, that if we are seeking validation from others, or we are waiting to take in others' energy first and then see if we are going to give our opinion about that or not, that protection, it is that we are not really in our full inner power when this dynamic is in play. And it also hinders us from being in contact and connection with our true inner passion, our true inner life force, because there is this desire to fulfill something that actually comes from somebody else. And we are not fulfilling or sourcing that inner power from ourselves. So that makes us live with this inner imbalance of giving, and very little receiving. Because we are meant to both give and receive in our lives, not just people please others and give. So what does this people pleasing behavior do to us? What does it cost us? And that's a very important question to ask ourselves. What does it cost me because of this people pleasing energy? Is it, for example, that you're not feeling alive, or you're feeling bored in your life, or you feel stagnant? Any of those energies that people pleasing brings with it is very much an energy of condition. If you give me this, I give you that, instead of a balanced give and take within ourselves. So what is it that you're giving away or not being happy with? Because that's often how it can be expressed in your life. That's the cost. That's the sacrifice, if you will. And is it worth it? Is it worth it for you to not feel alive? Is it worth it to continue people pleasing? And all of these questions are quite deep, and I love deep questions, as you know. But it's a key question, because people pleasing is a pattern, and it can be changed. So what does it take to stop people pleasing and start receiving? I'm going to give you a couple of tips here in a few minutes time here, which may sound simple, but there's a work involved, and this may be the inspiration for you to go deeper with this. The first step is always to start observing yourself. So for you, what is the pattern of people pleasing? Is it with a certain person? Is it within a certain situation at work? How does it express itself in your life? So be clear on that, and then move into, what is this behavior costing you? What is it that you're missing out on? And sit with that for a moment, because sometimes we feel that our current behaviors are really serving us. And it does serve you in a certain way, but is it for the good? So answer those questions. Now, how do you know that you have stopped people pleasing? That's a key question, isn't it? How do you know that you're no longer people pleasing? One way of looking at it is when you feel that you are not saying what other people want to hear from you, then you're not people pleasing anymore. Does that make sense? I'll say it one more time. When you're not saying what others want to hear, that's when you have stopped people pleasing. And that's just one indicator of not people pleasing anymore, because you have a sense of receiving what you need without saying to others what they want to hear. Does that make sense? And it also brings with you that sense of, I am me. I express my true self. I express my opinion. I stand for it, no matter what other people are going to say. And that is, you are on your way that way. So if you want to go deeper with this concept of people pleasing and identify more of what that means for you in your life and the desire to shift it, I recommend to read Chapter 4 in my book, Wisdom Beyond What You Know, How to Shift from Being Driven by the Mind to Living from the Heart and Intuition. And I also going to put a link to a previous episode in the description box below here that has to do with connecting with your inspiration, creativity, because the more we expand on our own sense of life force, our own sense of true self, and it has the same energy as creativity, that's when we can stop people pleasing and feeling our own inner power, not having to give all the time for a potential receive something, rather source that completely from within ourselves in balance. So thank you for listening to New Light Living Podcast. I will be back with another episode soon. Bye.